Welcome to Startup 360.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. My name is Akin Elekolusi. I'm a councillor, a Labour Party councillor in the Stevenage Borough Council. So my background is primarily in IT project management, digital transformation, and I work in the NHS and in the private healthcare sector. So I have a lot of experience on clinical systems, EPR systems. So I teach consultants, doctors and nurses how to use clinical systems.
Okay.
So that's my background, my professional background. But more recently, I became elected a Labour Party councillor. So I'm the first British Nigerian to be elected a Labour Party, to be elected as a councillor in the history of Stevenage Borough Council. God has been wonderful.
Indeed. How were you migrated to the UK?
Yeah, I moved to the UK shortly after my university. I attained my university degree in Nigeria. I remember I did my youth service and I finished my youth service. So I gave back in terms of the 1 year compulsory youth service you do after university. And then I left. This was about 38 years ago.
Was it growing up in Nigeria? How was your upbringing?
My father was here in the 60s. He studied here as an accountant. He qualified here as an accountant before he went back to Nigeria. My mom and dad lived here in the UK.
Okay.
And part of me had always wanted to come back. And then growing up in Nigeria, I actually went to predominantly British schools as well.
Okay.
And that had always influenced my thinking about moving here. So as soon as I finished my degree, I just felt it was the right time to move. I was still a bachelor, and I felt that was the best time to do it. So I came here, and it was tough at first. Obviously, adjusting to the cultural nuances of living in Britain.
Yeah.
But you tend to get used to it after a while. You get used to it.
Share with us what were the experience that you had during that time?
That was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So first of all, driving on the other side of the road, culture shock.
Yeah.
The
size of the road.
The size of the roads, the size of the houses. And I can always share with people when I reflect, London wasn't this gentrified back then. It was still quite... I remember King's Cross Station, the way it used to look. King's Cross Station today now is like a paradise.
Yes.
St. Pancras, but it was like a dump back then. Because I lived around King's Cross Station area. I lived in North London when I first came. And just looking back, it just shows how much society has transformed and how much the country has evolved as well, both economically and geographically. Yeah. So, it was tough. It was really tough. We had to adjust to a lot. There was a lot of racism back then. The National Front was very predominant in parts of London. You couldn't go to some pubs as a black person. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It was understated, but you know that you don't go there.
You're not allowed.
Yeah, you're not allowed. But we thank God for a lot of things that have happened since then, especially when Tony Blair came into power and the human rights laws were passed. So that started opening up, the country to ethnic minorities. So it's been a long fight. But I've been a Labour Party member for quite a long time.
When you arrived here, was it something that struck you that I need to do this to support my community?
Yes, thank you. That's a very good question. It's always been at the back of my mind. It had always been. I'm a student of politics as well. I studied political science at university. So I'd always, somewhere at the back of my mind, it always lingered there that I needed to be part of the political process, And, like I've always shared in conversations, in discussions with people when it comes to politics, if we're not at the table, we can't impact on the decision-making process.
Wow.
So we can't influence it.
Of course.
We can't do it from the sidelines. We can't do it from our living rooms. We moan in our living rooms, but we are not there at the table when they make it. But those decisions come back to impact on us.
Of course.
But they've not taken on board our own sensitivities, cultural sensitivities. And those are the kind of things that always, made me very, very passionate about putting myself forward at the right stage. And, and then finding ourselves at Stevenage, I had always been approached because I was always advocating for residents in Stevenage on many issues.
Okay.
Yeah, I was doing it privately. I wasn't doing it as a public officer.
Okay.
I would approach the MP for issues on behalf of of members of the community, immigration, housing, so many issues. And they always used to tell me that's the job of a councillor, you're doing privately, but you're not being recognized for it. But I just felt no, I felt led to do it. Because I've always been a big believer in iron sharpened iron. If we don't help each other, who's going to help us?
Of course.
So I used to put myself forward for, community leadership and stuff like that. So, and then, thankfully they came back asking about 3 years ago and asked me, are you sure you still don't want? And this was about 15 years ago when the last.
So it wasn't like you reached out or you went for it. They approached you.
Because they had been asking me, the Labour Party, because they saw what I used to do privately in the community. I was always, in fact, even then when I was on the council, I remember the MP, Mrs. Barbara Follett, she invited me to the House of Commons twice. I met up with Gordon Brown's ministers, and then she invited me to a gathering where Gordon Brown announced his prime ministerial thing after Tony Blair left, and I was the only black guy in the audience. So, and I wasn't a councillor back then. But I had just been doing things that came to people's attraction. And so, and the attention as well. So I got asked that question so many times about 15 years ago, and I kept on turning it down. And then they came back asking again about 3 years ago, and this time I said, well, I don't really have an excuse because
you're already doing the job.
Well, not so much that, because I was using the excuse of my children were quite young back then, and I felt that I needed to give them attention. But now they're grown up. The ones graduated from university over 2 years ago. The other one's final year uni. So I felt I don't have an excuse, and I just thought, I think it's time. I think it's time to give back. I think it's time to acknowledge the fact that the people of Stevenage have been very kind to us.
Yes.
I've raised my two kids were born in Stevenage and raised successfully in Stevenage, and I'm very, very grateful to the people of Stevenage. They've been very nice, they've been very cordial, and I felt the only little aspect of what I could do was in terms of giving back and serving them in any position that I could. So I actually accepted this time, and I went through the rigorous process of being selected locally within the party. I attended 2 interview sessions. It was unanimously decided that I could be a candidate of the Labour Party.
Wow. Before you were elected, tell us, were there challenges?
There weren't. You'll be surprised.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, that's why I said I'm so thankful to the people of Stevenage. I really can't. I'm not saying this because I'm in an interview. I'm saying this because it's true. If it wasn't, I'll tell you. I told you back then when I first came to England how I encountered racism. But on all my walks around the ward, and it's the most affluent part of Stevenage, that's my ward. It's actually where the richest people in Stevenage live. I did not encounter one single issue of racism or knocking on doors. In fact, it was a reverse.
During the process, voting,
people were friendly, people were nice to me. Yeah, I was taken aback. And it just goes to show, I think, in a way, part of me wasn't really surprised as well, because I've lived in Stevenage now for 25 years. So I've seen Stevenage evolve over the years. And one thing I've noticed about people of Stevenage is that they're very, very friendly people. They're very... I remember, just to digress a bit, when my son was born, and we brought him back from hospital, you would have thought I was watching a movie. When I say this story, people think... But I keep visualizing it in my mind, and every time it comes back, it's very emotional. We went to hospital, came back the following day, and the residents in my close saw that we were back. Because they saw me take my wife to hospital. So they knew that we were back from hospital. So they saw her get out of the car. And they were all looking from their houses.
Oh.
And the next thing I knew was that they were bringing presents.
Oh.
They came to carry the baby from the car, took him into the house. And they were bringing cards and presents, teddy bears and all that. And I couldn't believe it. And that disarmed me straight away. And that was shortly after we just moved to Stevenage 25 years ago. And I knew at the back of my mind that that place was home.
Yeah.
For me, I just felt
Well received.
well received. We had lived in London for a long time prior to that. But it just goes to show how much the people of Stevenage are very, very nice. So from going back from that period to
Yes.
me campaigning, well over 20 years after, I wasn't surprised I didn't meet that kind of, because I'm not used to it in Stevenage. You understand? They're very friendly. And don't forget, Stevenage is predominantly white.
Yes.
So I'm just grateful to God. In fact, what's happened to me in Stevenage is, and I know so many people have told me, being elected in Stevenage has been a miraculous thing, and I'm very grateful.
How long have
2
you
years.
served? 2 years.
2 years.
So how many years do you have to serve?
So I'm up for re-election now.
Oh.
Yes, I'm up for election. So we started putting together the campaigning strategy, and then we go canvassing again. But one thing about this is, it's not, and I need to state this categorically. It's not about how long you're in office. It's about how well what you've done. So I'm very, very thankful that even in the 2 years that I've been a councillor, it's been quite an impactful experience for me. And I look back on some of the casework that I've handled and how it's changed lives, and money can't buy that feeling.
Of course.
And, one good thing about this is once you've been a councillor, you'd always be a pivotal figure in the community. So whether you're in office or you're outside office, you're going forward. So, but I go into this with an open mind, and I go into this with God being behind me, and we'll see how it turns out. But like I said, like I alluded to earlier, where you are in life is where God wants you to be.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
So, and when one door closes, a bigger one is about to open.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about my chances with the election thing. I'm just saying I surrender myself to God's processes. So I do not worry over things I can't control. That's always been my own disposition, my personal disposition in life. Because I didn't vote for myself to get here. I was just open-minded about it. In fact, I was told in the hall, first timers don't win. That's why I'm saying I'm a miracle, yeah. One guy told me, an elected councillor, he said, he had tried for almost 30 years before he won his seat here. Another person told me she tried 4 times before she won the 5th time. So that's why I said I'm a miracle. So when God wants to do his work, you just surrender yourself to him. So I hold on to God's word. I'm very faithful. I'm a great believer that God will make a way where there's no way. And if that's where he wants me to be going forward, fine, he'll keep me there. And if that's not where he wants me to be, he will make a way elsewhere. So I'm not bothered whatever, but I just want to be of service to the community in whatever way I can.
Indeed. Talking about community councillor, what are the challenges facing your community in Stevenage?
A major one is youth unemployment, which, as you know, I set up an organization to help tackle, which is why I'm saying what I said earlier on about being impactful while you're in office. So that led me to tackle that issue, which is the main issue. Youth unemployment, we have. Let me just share with you a bit of statistics to back this up. In the UK, we have one of the highest population. We have the highest population of youth unemployment in Europe at the moment, 16 to 24-year-olds. 16%. Unemployment rate. That's high. The rest of Europe is very close, it's about 14.5%. But we're 16. Well, it's been a double whammy, hasn't it? Because Brexit was a total disaster. There's no way anybody will spin it. We were looking at the immigration side of things, but really the economic side has been a hard hit. A lot of companies have left the UK because they moved to the Eurozone. They don't want to trade outside the Eurozone, which only makes sense. You cannot leave that kind of economic market and not suffer the consequences of it. And then we had COVID, that wasn't things for a lot of companies. So the hospitality industry that would normally employ the youthful ones, and a lot of other industries, they shut down. and they lost their businesses. So we now have a huge talent pool that is not being harnessed at the moment in the UK, which is not good. Even a lot of graduates are graduating now in the UK, which never used to happen, and they don't have jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, I know 1 or 2 cases, they've been at home for about 1 or 2 years now, but yeah, and that's never happened. So that's showing the heavy effects of what we're saying.
Would you say this Brexit could have been other way around?
Yes.
Looking back where we find ourselves.
Yes,
now.
if we did not let people like Nigel Farage hoodwink us with the immigration argument
Yeah.
and looked at it thoroughly, we were actually benefiting more from the EU than we were told. I mean, the farmers were benefiting from a lot of subsidies. The youths could actually go to Europe and study in universities abroad for free.
Yeah.
There were grants being given to universities in the UK.
Yes.
So there was a lot that was being done.
Yeah.
All those things have been withdrawn. It's not as if the government in the
Were
UK...
they not aware of all this that was coming?
There were arguments on this, but, especially for people like us that were in the Remain camp, we put those arguments across, but people weren't willing to listen because people like Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson, if you remember, they were lying to everybody, they're taking 350 million, we'll put 350 million a week into the NHS. We haven't seen £35 in the NHS since then. So it's crazy what was done. People were misled. And just by a small fraction, I think it was 52% to 48%, the trajectory of the history of this country changed dramatically.
And David Cameron initiated Brexit. Was he aware of the implications? Was his exit based on this initiative, and because it wasn't going according to what he proposed, was that the reason why he left?
He with hindsight, he was actually a Remainer.
Yeah.
But he felt he could shut down the argument once and for all, and he could win the argument.
Yeah.
Because he won the Scottish referendum, don't forget.
Yeah.
So when he won the Scottish referendum, he felt, okay, this is an issue Margaret Thatcher didn't even touch. I'm going to touch it.
Yeah.
I'm Lucky Dave. Okay, that's what he apparently called himself. But Lucky Dave, quote and unquote, blew up everything because this is an issue John Major put on the sideline, Margaret Thatcher, all these guys, and then you went to touch it.
Yeah.
Thinking you would win it because of the Scottish referendum, but you can't look at Scottish referendum was a totally different issue. The Brexit issue was the whole country.
Yes.
So you can't. It was a huge decision.
Yeah.
So you can't look at that and use that sentimental thinking and say, okay, I can win it. No. But it just goes to show. Even I remember I was following the results that night. They remain were winning.
Yeah, we're winning. Then all of a sudden,
around 2 a.m., everything just went downhill. And the North, the Northern has put up a protest vote, literally, and that swung it in favor of the Brexit camp. Yeah. It's taking us down the dead end. We're struggling.
Very.
We might not have as many, even with the immigration argument. It's not been as strong as they hope because a lot of the Eastern Europeans left, didn't they? They went back to their country.
Yes.
And then the farmers are struggling now for labor. The farmers don't have labor to work on their farms. Yeah. And when farmers don't have labor on their farms, exactly. So food security. So it affects so many things. The dynamics of the economy goes haywire, and that's what we're seeing today.
And you should remember Cameron for that.
Yes, sadly. I always say history will remember him for that because it touches something that
pains me to hear that because his intention wasn't where we find ourselves.
Exactly, it wasn't.
But because he initiated it.
Yeah, because I'm not Tory by any stretch of the imagination, but I would not. He just shouldn't have gone down that route because his intentions were not like you rightly said. It wasn't as if he wanted to plunge this country into that.
But this has been his target there forever.
Yeah. But he didn't foresee people like Farage and Boris Johnson. Even Boris was a Remainer, if you remember.
I remember, and then he switched.
So it just goes to show what people are like.
Councillor, let's talk about your work in the NHS, the role you play, and how it supports the NHS system.
Yeah, thanks. So the NHS has quite a variety of EPRs. We call them EPRs. That's the term, technical term, electronic patient records. So these are huge databases
yeah.
that contain patient data.
Mhm.
And I don't know whether people have been noticing everything is now e-prescription, e-referral, it's all.
Yeah.
So, and it's very good because this is speeding up patient care
It's okay, yeah.
and patient pathway management. Because from the moment you get referred from the GP, it's an e-referral from the GP. There's no need to post anything anymore.
Mm-mm.
So within
It's
seconds, it gets
consistent.
to the hospital. The hospital sees that referral and starts triaging that referral into a referral system, triage system, and then they bring it forward, send it to the different specialties.
Mhm.
As it concerns them, they will now book the appointment. The booking team, they will book the appointment. Now, on these systems, there's so many systems that handle these processes. So I've worked on the back end side of it, working on patient pathway management as a patient pathway manager. And then I've worked on the training side of things. So I understand it from a lot of ends. So there are quite a lot of them, but the most common ones that are widely used are Sana Millennium, Epic, System C,
I remember
Medway.
Epic here.
Epic is being used at UCLH in London.
Yeah, that's right, because I used to work at UCLA. So when you mentioned Epic, that was
I
my mind.
I worked there 2019.
I was there in 2019 as well.
And then Great Ormond Street Hospital used Epic as well. So Epic came into the country, they're a big American company. Most of the systems are American, American clinical systems. So Epic came into the country with Adam Brooks. So Adam Brooks, I think it was 2017 or something. Adam Brooks was the first hospital in Cambridge to use Epic. And then Gosh, and then UCLH. Now Epic is spread all over the country. There's Sana Millennium as well, which is another widely used one. So you become proficient at all these systems and how it's used. And but the logical processes within them is to outcome the same thing. To make sure that the patient pathway is managed properly and seamlessly while the patient is in hospital. And speedily too, because speed is of the essence when it comes to patient pathway management.
Especially blood tests. Lab results is very, very, very.
The lab results needs to be seen. The results needs to be seen quickly. So that's put on the system. The consultant or doctor can see it while he's looking at it. Radiology reports, and that's the beauty of what Epic does, which is just that can afford Epic as well. It's very expensive. Epic is very Epic in price.
Talking about expensive, where do you think the NHS is heading now? You've been with them for a decade now. It's more than a decade.
It's more than a decade. I know people are trying to say the argument is, I just think there has to be a separate. I think what the government should face, it still has to be free at the point of delivery.
Do you think?
It has to be. We don't have the living standard of the Americans. Even the Americans are crying. Because trust me, I've been to the US many times and I see people's bills. You go to the dentist, you pay $4,000 for an appointment. $4,000, that's ridiculous. Or even the pharmaceutical, the prescriptions they get from pharmacies, it's just crazy. So we don't want to go down that road because it's a slippery slope to people not going to hospital, and that's what's happened in the US. There's been a serious dichotomy in medical care. So you have a huge population of people that don't even access medical care at all. Yes, that's what will happen. A lot of people will not be accessed. People that are not well to do in society will not be able to either see a dentist or go to a doctor because they will charge you from the GP appointment to go to hospital.
And if you don't have insurance?
Even with the insurance it varies because there are categories of it. So the richer you are, the better the insurance or the better work package you have. So there are different levels, So it doesn't give you the same affordability in terms of patient, instead of care. Because for some, if you have cancer, God forbid, if the person has cancer, there are some insurances that cover that won't cover it in the US. So it's a lottery. It's a lottery, and we don't want to go down that road.
Yes.
That's why the Canadians have our NHS model. I know they're a British colony.
Interesting.
Because they're a British colony. The king is still obviously the ruler. And the Canadians have the NHS system is actually the best. It's just that it's been badly managed, and over the years, I think that's what needs to be done. Manage it properly, and I think that's what the new Labour government is trying to do. Put in procedures where it's managed properly. In the past, under the Tories, sadly, a lot of things they were trying to privatize quite a few aspects of it, so they wasted so much money here and there. But if it's managed properly, I don't see a problem with it.
Of course.
Because that means things will be, money will be better spent and targeted towards the right areas within the NHS. It's a very good institution,
Yeah.
and the nurses and
Yeah.
the doctors are doing a fantastic
Yeah.
job. I always commend them when I come into contact with them. It's a labor of
Trust me,
love that
Councillor,
is
it's
done.
not, especially the nurses.
Oh, yeah.
You need to have passion to take that role.
There's no amount of money you can pay us that makes up for what they
yes,
do.
Yes,
I've seen them
I
firsthand on the
respect
wards.
them for that
Yeah.
role. It's not easy. I don't even want to go there. With my experience,
Yeah.
I salute them.
Yeah.
Councillor, let's go back to Stevenage Innovation Cycle. Tell us what this initiative is about.
About, let's see, 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when I first, just shortly after I moved to Stevenage, I started noticing how Stevenage suffered from a lot of youth unemployment. There's a lot of, Stevenage had a nasty stereotype then about youth pregnancy rates and all.
Really?
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad because we lost British Aerospace. British Aerospace moved out of the area, so it caused a lot of.
Okay.
So they were the major employer. They left Stevenage, and it literally devastated the town. So imagine pulling out a company like British Aerospace, a huge company like that, from an area. It actually messes things up sociologically, and that was what we had back then. So we were facing the fallout from that, and a lot of people high drug use,
Yeah.
so we're seeing the side effects of that huge unemployment, And at the back of my mind, I started engaging with the youths, in the area. I reached out to some of their parents. I became friends with some of the locals, and I started steering them away from that kind of life, and sensitizing them on the need to go to school and stay in school, to help, because we're the product of decisions we make in life. The decision you make right now impacts on you tomorrow. But a lot of youths don't understand that, especially in this country where a lot is given to you.
Then at the age of 16, you can have your own, move out from your family and all that.
Get a flat. And,
no control.
But that life is ending right now because the councils don't have that kind of
money. It ended like silently.
Yeah, silently. Yeah. Because the money is not there anymore to play with.
But they initiated it.
Well, so in Stevenage, I started, and then we started doing things. I started doing things. So some of them today, I see them in town, and I just marvel because they become very responsible young men and women.
And they recognize you.
They recognize me. They come over and say hello. And sometimes I don't recognize them. And then they say, "Don't you remember me?" And they have to tell me. And then I look at them closely and I say, "Whoa, is it you?" And I'm, So it's been gladdening to see that happen. And then fast forward about 2 years ago, when I became councillor, I started saying, okay, this is the platform now I need to actually take this thing a lot further. Because I stopped doing that many years ago, engaging with youth, and I said, let me bring this back. I wanted to organize a knife crime symposium. Not that we have huge knife crime rates in Sydney, but I just wanted to scare them away from all that. So I was going to organize a talk with a barrister friend of mine from London. I was going to invite him, and he had agreed. And he gives talks like that around the country, because he deals with children that actually end up in that line of crime, and he has to go to the Old Bailey sometimes to defend them. So when you hear some of the stories of what he's been through with these young kids, it's devastating. Then I felt, I could take this a step further. Just some months ago, I think this was about 6 months ago, I said, I can hold on. Instead of organizing symposia, one-off meetings like that, conferences, and they all go and disappear, and we have to come back again the following year. Why don't I start something that would be of lasting impact, that would be, always at the back of their minds, that would engage with them regularly? And that's how Stevenage Innovation Circle was born, because I now engaged, and I found someone that had that same passion in Alex, and we decided that we needed to map this out properly. So we set up the website. We actually went about building the website first, putting all the ideas of what we wanted on the website, and then taking it from there. So that was what led to creation of Stevenage Innovation Circle, and then we now had the awards night as well to be the flagship event, to kickstart, to launch the whole thing. So we hope, and then I'm going to do it in synergy with a lot of the companies in Stevenage, the big companies like Airbus,
Yeah.
Fujitsu, they are there in Stevenage as well, GSK, and the pharmaceutical firm, and MBDA, and then we have even Mercedes, BMW, there in Stevenage. We have big dealerships there. So it's about how do we get these young guys, these 16 to 24-year-olds,
Active on the streets.
exactly, and then get them into internship roles,
Yes.
vocational roles with this company. Because not everyone's going to go to university. You don't need to go to university to actually have a future.
Of course.
And the UK is very good at that, where you can actually realize your talent and develop it. Exactly. And then it saves you from even incurring debts and all that.
Of course.
Unnecessary debts. So,
after years of education, you come back with working to pay.
Yeah, paying it off.
Their loan off,
Exactly. So I felt that this is a very good way. So and then we'll help train them as well. So we have training courses in AI. There are different pathways of what we mapped out. So we have the youth empowerment scheme. We have the AI training program. We have so many things. It's all on the website. So if you go to Stevenage, and it's not really meant for just for information's sake. It's not really just meant for Stevenage residents. So if anyone wants to avail themselves of it, they should just go on the Stevenage IC website. So it's stevenageic.org. One word, stevenageic.org. www.stevenageic.org. And you see all the information that is very, very easy to access. The next awards night, we are proposing that it's going to happen August, I think it's August, September. We're planning. We started planning that already. We started planning from when we finished the last one.
The last one was interesting.
Thank you.
We really was.
And then we're
Congratulations, you guys did a good job.
Thank you.
I was very impressed.
So we're going to invite, thinking of inviting one or two celebrities to that one. So we're so grateful. Even the local council, we're looking at ways of collaborating with them because it's a win-win for everybody. The more we get these youths into sustainable career pathways, the better for the community. There's an African saying, a rich man in the midst of so many is a poor person. Believer in...
You don't want any pressure.
And, it's not when the problem comes that you now start saying you want to solve it. So you proactively solve the problem before it pops up. So, and I just want us, sometimes we need to, and sometimes I look back and I say, what is life all about? It's not about the cars we've driven or the houses we've bought.
It's the impact.
It's about legacy.
Legacy, of course.
And I want to live a life of legacy. And I believe that's more important. Nobody will remember you for the car you drove last year, let alone in 10 years' time.
You can't.
Nobody will remember the house you lived in. But if they'll say, oh, that man, this is what he did, this is what he did.
Through him, this is why I was able to achieve this because of him.
Yes.
That is more than
money.
Worth.
That's what more than money. When you help transform people's lives, when you have a life of impact, leadership is about service. It's not about yourself. You need to be bigger than you need to actually suppress that part of you to put yourself there for people. Exactly. So I'm a big believer in that, and I think that's the life I want to live going forward.
You've lived more than that. You keep doing it. Bless you. Keep up the good job.
Thank you.
Councillor, you've heard a lot from you. But there's one thing I need to ask. If somebody wants to become a councillor, what would you advise that person to do to achieve that? Because there's a lot going on within our community. But when it comes to this position, we don't know how to go about it. We feel like you need to be in a certain category group of people before you meet the requirements. Is there any specific requirements you must meet? Or would you just have to support in the community before you're elected? Take us through the process and how we can put ourselves forward to become like you.
It actually doesn't take much. I think it takes dedicated service to community. When I say dedicated, you need to be dedicated. You need to have one thing I know is our community has a disconnect with the wider community.
Yes.
A major disconnect. And this is affecting us politically as well. And why I say this is this. We need to be seen, our churches, for instance, need to have more community engagement activities. And our people need to put themselves out, volunteering for different things.
Yeah.
If you go to your local council's website, you see so many things you could
Yeah.
volunteer for,
Yeah.
either for food banks or for helping the elderly or for
Yeah.
doing different things. And then if you want to put yourself forward for being a councillor politically, it becomes easier because members of your community would have seen you do so many things. By the time you join a political party, you're bound to meet some of them at that level. Don't forget the people in your community are actually the people that you meet in the political parties.
Yeah.
So you join a political party. It could be the Lib Dem, it could be the I hope not Reform, it could be the Labour Tory. Join any one of them. Well, I've just mentioned those ones in passing.
Right.
You know, but yeah. So, but you join them and then you start attending the political meetings that they have, and you definitely come to the attention of one or two people. There, you put yourself forward for candidacy for the local, because winning that candidacy is actually very, very tough. It's not so easy to be selected on the local level as well. But once you put yourself in the consciousness of people, it's easier because people will now know what you stand for. They know you are very passionate about making things, to delivering things and all that. By the time you even get interviewed, it will be an easier process because you would have built networks within the party. And I think that's what's happened to me over the years, where that recognition came from. And then obviously, even though I attended 2 tough interviews, and then you need to be a very good public speaker, of course.
Okay.
You need to be able to engage, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be able to be a good public speaker. You need those qualities are very important. And then, of course, when you start engaging with the locals as well, you need to be able to transmit what the values of the party and what the party stands for.
I see.
Because the party is sending you, you're representing a large organization.
Yes.
So when I go out for my campaigns, I'm not literally representing myself. I'm representing the Labour Party as an organization. So you need to be careful what you say and what you transmit. And those are the kind of things that you need to be aware of. But with proper training, with proper guidance, and then first things first, before I forget, before you start this journey, get a mentor. Always get a mentor in life, either to upscale you economically or politically. A lot of mistakes we make in our community as well is that we think we can do things on our own.
Of course.
You can't.
It's not possible.
Because there's always going to be someone that has done it before you.
Yes.
All you need to do is signpost that person and, reach out to that person and, ask them a favor. So I'm a big believer in the mentorship process. I mentor people, and I put myself out to help mentor people because it's important. There has to be people coming from behind, coming up behind me. There's no point in this ending here.
Once you're gone, there should be a next generation. Yeah.
And that's what I told people. I dedicated it to people that are coming up behind me to show them it's possible. We shouldn't. And one thing we shouldn't do is this self-defeatist attitude that is very prevalent in the community. And even before you put yourself out, you can't win, why are you doing it?
Oh, yes.
Stop saying that. Not everything is racist. I think we need to stop all that rubbish.
Yeah, it's our mindset, I think.
It's a mindset. It's a cultural mindset that has permeated from years of living in the UK. And we've used that to... I'm not saying there's no racism, don't get me wrong. But I've just shown you my experiences. If I had that same attitude, I would have put myself forward. Especially in a predominantly white world. What I'm saying is, our God is bigger than all these things. Put yourself out there. Forget about all the negatives. If we dwell on the negatives, we'll never do anything.
Of course.
It's just like, you find yourself like when Daniel was found in the lion's den. If he had dwelt on these lions will eat me and did not focus on God, they would have devoured him. So we need to... I always share with people, when I see a mountain before me, I don't look at the mountain. I'm looking at me already climbing the mountain and arriving at the valley on the other side. And so physically, I'm not looking at the mountain. I'm already looking at the valley on the other side. And if you have that approach to life, you will see that you wouldn't find situations insurmountable. Because you know that your journey to the top, to get to the top, is easy. Because you know that you need to make that journey to get to that valley on the other side. But the moment you start seeing that journey and you take the journey step by step, without looking at the top. Because if you look at the top, it's going to be on you. You're going to actually defeat yourself. You're going to think it's insurmountable. So what I do is I look at one step after the other, and I get to the top. And if you have that approach of chipping away at a problem bit by bit, you realize that a lot of problems will disappear. So I tend not to worry about things that are outside my control. That's what I'm trying to say. I let God do the rest, because there's no point. If you worry, you die, like they say in Nigeria. If you don't worry, you die. Why worry?
Just leave.
Exactly.
Councillor, your final word. Would you want to say and send a message to any of your colleagues, your family, before we wrap up?
Oh yeah.
And if anybody wants to reach out to you, where they can reach out to you to access any of your support?
I think I'm on TikTok. Well, I know I'm on TikTok.
Yeah.
I think it's Akin Elekolusi 35. You can find me on Facebook. DM me, whatever. I'm on Instagram as well. Akin Elekolusi 35.
LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm part of a few portals. So you'll find me one way or the other. I'm on LinkedIn. My name is there. So you search for me, you find me, Akin Elekolusi. I'm sure you put that in the...
We'll put all your details.
Put all my details there, and all my social media handles, and people can. And like I said, please, I'll be most willing to advise. I'll be most willing to help. It's important that we put ourselves in positions when we find ourselves in positions of leadership. It's important we're in positions to we put ourselves in position to help others as well. I'm not a big believer in climbing a ladder and taking away the ladder. You need to leave the ladder there for other people to climb up. Sadly, we've had people that have done that. We forget your community and you don't want people to climb. No, it doesn't work like that. Like I said, it's a bit about a life of impact and a life of legacy. And that's what I'm driving towards. And hopefully I would achieve that.
Indeed. All the best, Councillor. Thank you so much for being with us here this evening.
Thank you for having me. It's been a delight. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Thank you.
I'm glad we got to do it at long last. It's taken quite a few logistical upheavals to get here, so to speak.
Folks, thank you so much for listening, for watching. My name is Nana Adjoa Sika. Stay tuned for our next case. Love you.
Bye.